Good day, folks, and welcome back to Ed's Garage. Today we're looking at the 2026 Ioniq 5 Ultimate. This is slightly redesigned for 2025, but a big improvement made this year, at least for Canada anyway, an improvement that was made in the United States last year, we got this year in Canada, and that is the NACS port. That's right, you can now charge this natively at a Tesla charging station, which does make things a lot easier because there's quite a few more of those out there than regular CCS charging locations and stations. But anyway, today I want to take you through a full tour of this vehicle. Pretty excited to do this actually because I never got a chance to do a tour of the 25 Ultimate Ioniq 5. So 26, they're basically the same other than the charging point. And they did remove the charging cable that came with the 2025 model. This one does not come with a charger. You have to buy that separately. But it does come with adapters for CCS locations as well as J1772 charging stations. So let's get on with it. Let's get into it. Let's go over everything that you get in a 26 Ioniq 5 Ultimate. First off, apologies for the noise. I know there's a little bit of train noise behind me, but this microphone picks up pretty good, so I think we'll be all right. And I do want to say a thank you to Bannister Hyundai of Chilliwack for letting me use their Ioniq 5 Ultimate today. If you're looking for a good deal on a vehicle, whether it's new or used, especially if it's a new Hyundai, check out Bannister Hyundai in the Chilliwack location for a great deal. Talk to Nick Spencer there. He's the general manager, great guy. Anyway, let's go over it. So on the front, basically we're going to start at the front, go to the back, go inside, go over absolutely everything. On the front of the Ioniq 5, you can see we've got the active shutters here. These will close whenever it doesn't need extra cooling. So they are open right now. You can see we've got forward parking sensors. There's actually parking sensors on the sides as well, not just on the front, but also on the back, because this vehicle has self-parking ability and it also has the smart park capability with the key fob, which I'll show you in a moment. We have projector headlights and high beams, of course, that beautiful pixel LED thing going on in the front there. Got the forward-facing radar system. There's also a forward-facing camera in the windshield. Those two things, of course, working in conjunction for the adaptive cruise control, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assistance, lane departure warning, pedestrian detection, cyclist detection, junction turning detection. Basically every single forward safety technology that's out there right now, this actually does have, which is awesome. Also on the front, you can see there's another forward-facing camera here. That is for the surround view camera system, which we'll go over when we're inside of the vehicle. And this whole front end actually is translucent. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but you can see the little pixels in behind that, which is kind of cool. All right, let's go ahead and pop the hood here and open it up. I've already popped it, so we'll open it up. And you can see underneath the hood, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but there is a small front trunk. Now, it's not very big, but it is big enough to fit all of your complaints about the vehicle, because there's going to be very, very few. Remember that the Ioniq 5 was World Car of the Year when it came out in 2022, and World EV of the Year, and World Design Award of the Year. This vehicle has got a ton of awards. Now, the reason that the front trunk is quite small on this is because there's a front motor here underneath that, and they wanted to have a really short hood and lots of legroom in the cabin. So in order to do that, they had to have a small front trunk and kind of stack the motor and inverter vertically in order to give you all of that space up front inside the cabin. So that's why this is small. When you know the reason, it makes perfect sense. Behind here is the air filter for the cabin, so easy access to that. You can see right here on the left, we have our windshield washer fluid, pretty easy to get to. And a nice improvement last year was the reduction of how many coolant systems there were. So this one now has one coolant loop for the electric motors, because of course it's two motors, and the battery. All of that is being done with one single coolant loop, which simplifies things, especially maintenance. You got your brake fluid right here, your 12-volt battery here, which of course controls all of the emergency features. When there's an accident or emergency of some sort, everything will be run through that, and the high voltage battery will be disconnected. Easy access to the fuse box here, and underneath the fuse box lid, you can see there is actually a quick pull tab for the fire department to also disconnect the high voltage battery, so they don't have to cut anything. There's just a little pull tab that they pull, nice and simple. Now guys, there is a ton of things to talk about on this vehicle, so if you think I missed anything, please comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this video helps you out. All right, let's continue on. All right, nice aluminum hood. We're gonna go ahead and close that and move around to the side of the vehicle. You know what, actually I'm gonna go this side here. So we have 19-inch aluminum alloy wheels, so 235, 55, 19. Very flat wheel structure, of course, for aerodynamic efficiency. It's got that cool sort of silver wheel fender going on there. It looks pretty nice. On the mirrors, you can see we got more pixel lights. That is for your marker lights, of course. When you turn your turn signal on, people that are in your blind spot will see what your intentions are. There is a camera under here as well, which I'll show you when we get into the vehicle. And of course, it has blind spot monitoring. We've got proximity keyless entry with the digital key capability. So when you're using your cell phone as a key, you just walk up and the vehicle will unlock. If it doesn't, or if you want to lock it, there's a little square there that you press, and that'll unlock and lock the doors. Kind of nice that the handles are fold away style, so again, increasing aerodynamic efficiency. Going further back, this is the big change. If we go ahead and open this up, there you go, there's the Tesla NACS port. So you can go right to a Tesla station, and these are capable of doing plug and charge. Not sure when that's going to be enabled in Canada, but eventually you'll just be able to plug in and it'll start to charge, and it'll charge your credit card automatically, so you don't have to pull out your phone and start the charging, etc. A little button right here to close that lid. And then if we go further around, you can see again more of those pixels, a little bit of a difference in styling from the 24 and prior versions. But yeah, there's our parking sensors there, and then one on the side there, of course, as well. Now, new last year was the inclusion of a rear window wiper. That's kind of nice. It does still have the spoiler on the back here with the little air pass-throughs right there. So, I mean, that will help to kind of shed some water off the window, but the wiper, of course, is what everybody wanted. So Hyundai did finally put that on after a few years in production. So that's nice to see. Now, this one does also have the smart tailgate where you stand behind the tailgate for a few seconds and it opens up. Currently, it's disabled, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the key fob to do that. Speaking of the key fob, here is what that looks like. So you got the little egg-shaped key with the Hyundai badge there. You got lock, unlock, remote start, and panic alarm. And then on the side here, you got the tailgate button and then the smart park forwards and backwards. So to open the tailgate, you hold this button down and tailgate opens up. Or as I mentioned, you could just stand there for 4 seconds and it'll open up on its own. Tailgate is high enough that somebody who's 6'2" can stand underneath it without bonking their head. So that's kind of nice. But let me show you the smart park while we got the key fob out. So first thing we're going to do is remote start the vehicle. So we're going to wait for the lights to flash. And there we go. And then on the key fob itself, you just want to hold the smart park button. And there it goes. And now you can just walk your vehicle along just like that. Now the forward sensors and the rear sensors will indicate whether or not there's a vehicle in front of you or behind you, and it will stop on its own. So you can also just let go of the key fob and it stops. And then if we want to go backwards, we just hold the other button down. And just like that. Now, what's really cool about Smart Park is that you can go in a parking lot, turn on Smart Park, find an open space, stop, get out of the car, and then use the key fob to actually make the car back into the parking spot. It's pretty awesome. Now, if you're wondering why it can just go forwards and backwards like this, is because if you come back to your vehicle and some Yahoo is parked right next to the door, you can use the key fob to just pull the vehicle out so you don't have to worry about banging into their car with your door. All right, let's move on. We're gonna go ahead and open up the tailgate again here. And as you can see, we've got a privacy cover that does come standard with the Ioniq 5 and the Ultimate trim, so that's kind of nice. Back here, the floor you can lift up. There's a little extra storage underneath here. Not a whole lot, but you know, it's got some extra storage, which is nice. There's our NACS to CCS adapter and our NACS to J1772. By the way, guys, NACS stands for North American Charging Standard, in case you were wondering. Also underneath the floor is the subwoofer, so that's what's in this giant container box thing right here, and then there's a little bit of storage space around that. It also comes with a cargo net, so that's kind of nice. The wheel locks don't come with it. That was done by the manufacturer. The floor under here is a little bit different than the 2024 and prior version, and that's because these now actually have a bigger battery. So there's an 84 kilowatt hour battery in this, well, in any of the current generation Ioniq 5s that aren't the base model. They all get an 84 kilowatt hour battery, with the exception of the base model, which is 63 kilowatt hour. Now, this one happens to be all-wheel drive, as I mentioned, because again, it is a top trim level. The all-wheel drive Ioniq 5 gives you 320 horsepower, 446 foot-pounds of torque, and a 0 to 100 kilometer an hour run in about 5 seconds. So it's a pretty quick vehicle as well. Going back to the trunk real quick, if you don't want the privacy cover, you can simply squeeze it and pull it out. So now it's out of the way. There we go, and that opens up a lot of extra space in here. On the left-hand side, we got the 12-volt power outlet, which is nice. Nice LED lighting inside here. And on the right-hand side, you can see there's an emergency release mechanism for the charging handle, if that ever gets caught for whatever reason. So that's what that is. And you'll also notice, actually, I forgot to mention, there's 2 positions for the privacy cover to go in, because these seats can actually recline. There's 13 levels of recline on these seats, which I'll show you once we jump in there. Okay, let's talk cargo capacity. So with the seats down, the full cargo capacity here is about 60 cubic feet. It's just shy of 60 cubic feet. With the rear seats up, it's a little over 27 cubic feet in the trunk here. So not best in class, but honestly quite usable with that nice flat floor and a fairly fairly square location to put your stuff as well. However, you'll notice there's a way to expand your rear cargo area, and that is by simply sliding the seats forward. Both of the rear seats, not only can they recline, but the seat bases can slide forward and backward as well. So if you need to squeeze out a little extra room, some extra cubic feet of space, you can simply move the seat forward. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's jump in the back seat area here. And this is one place where you're gonna note that the Ioniq 5 is absolutely fantastic for space. Look at how much room I have in front of my knees here. There's several inches, at least 3 to 4 inches of space behind the front seats, and a nice solid seat back as well. So if you do have kids sitting back here kicking the seats, you're not going to notice that so much. There's also pockets on both of the seat backs, so that's a nice touch as well. And there's room for me to put my feet underneath the seat. Now, both of the front seats have height adjustment as well, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, there is a ton of space back here, and if I need to, as I mentioned, I can move the seat forward now if I need a little extra space in the back, so that's pretty cool. And of course, as I mentioned before, you can recline these seats, so let's try that. There we go. Lots of recline, and you can put this into different positions here as well. So awesome, awesome place to be for the rear passengers. And they've also got a rear cup holder armrest, which is nice and padded, and the doors themselves are also nice and padded. So very, very comfortable place. Check this out. There's a huge armrest and a huge door handle. The armrest is the door handle. And that makes a lot of sense. So no matter how long your arms are, you can get to that door handle very, very easy and very quickly. And I say quickly because if the door were to suddenly swing open from the wind, you can catch the armrest here without having to think about it. So if the door gets caught by the wind, not have to worry as much about hitting the car next to you. The bottle holders and pockets down at the bottom of the door here, these are a little bit small, but of course they're trying to, shave that down to give you more passenger space back here. This is kind of nice. You do have the retractable sunshades, and I'll point out that the sunshade, when up, covers pretty much the entire window, and that's something you may not find in the competition, so keep that in mind. A lot of competition, what they'll do is they'll have these too small, they won't quite go all the way forward to backward. There's a LED light on both of the handles here, both the grab handles on both sides. And of course, this does have the massive panoramic sunroof. So we'll go ahead and open that up as well. So the rear passengers do get to have some luxury, which is quite nice. There's also a vent in the B pillars on both sides. So vent open, close, as well as movable, pretty easy. And we've got 2 USB-C ports that are backlit and a nice little place to keep a phone. There is a lot of ambient lighting in this vehicle, and even the back. You have some ambient lighting right here, and this ambient light's coming from behind the door handle, which you can't see right now because it's quite bright out, but lots of ambient lighting. And as a matter of fact, there are 64 available colors for the ambient lighting system. Now, I want to bring up something really, really small, but really significant for me. One thing I'm noticing with this sunroof, or not noticing, but I knew this already. One thing that I miss about the Ioniq series sunroofs is how lightly tinted they are. I know that sounds weird, like why would you want to have light tint? Well, this has the full 100% light blocking sunshade, so why not only have a light tint on the sunroof? This sunroof is actually useful. It brings in a lot of light. As you can see, it is tinted, but it's not so tinted that you can't even tell it's there. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I currently drive a Rivian, and my sunroof is so dark that it's pretty much pointless. Most of my passengers don't even realize it has a sunroof until I point out the fact that it has a sunroof, even in the middle of a bright day. It's kind of frustrating because I really miss having a nice sunroof. Last thing to note in the back seat here is that they are heated. There is 2 levels of seat heat on both of the outboard seats. So yeah, awesome space, awesome comfort. They're really comfortable seats. Hyundai is the only company that, well, one of the only companies that manufactures its own seats. So they do a really, really good job. Actually, that's one thing my truck has in common with this is the seat structure in my truck, my Rivian, is actually the exact same seat structure as the front seats in the Ioniq 5. So another interesting little tidbit of information. But anyway, yeah, great back seat. This is second to almost none. As a matter of fact, I would say second to none in this price class. All right, before looking at the driver's seat, we're gonna have a quick look at the passenger seat and see if they lose out on any of the luxuries compared to the driver's seat. And I'm happy to report that no, they do not. So you do get a nice power seat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-way adjustable power passenger seat with great bolstering on the sides. It is a very comfortable seat. It's perforated leatherette interior. So that's nice to see that there is actually power on this side. We also have Bose audio system in this one as well, so we'll look at the stereo in a bit. A decent sized door pocket here with a bottle holder. Again, nice long handle, easy to grab. And keep in mind there is an additional color option for the interior on the Ioniq 5. You can get this in a lighter colored interior if you want something that looks a little bit more luxurious, shall we say. Okay. One thing that's cool about this center console is you can actually slide it backwards. So if you want, you can do that. It makes it very easy to get from the passenger side to the driver's side if you're switching driving positions. Other than that, not a whole lot to talk about in the passenger seat, honestly. The glove box is absolutely cavernous. It's huge. There's lots of space in here. Little extra pocket right here as well, which is kind of nice. And it's also got an LED light lighting it up. There's, let me see. Soft touch materials on the top of the dash. This is sort of semi-soft touch and then plastic right here. Soft touch right there, plastic underneath of course. The doors, soft touch up here, soft touch here, plastic, and then yeah, some other, I don't know what this is. And this is actually a semi-soft right there as well. So yeah, pretty nice interior. Another thing to point out with the center armrest is you can open it up, so there's a little bit of storage there, and you can lift it up as well. And then you get this huge storage location here that actually has a couple of USB-C ports as well. So a nice place to charge your cell phones. And then there's another USB-C port way up here that connects to the screen if you want to use wired CarPlay, wired Android Auto, but you don't have to because it actually has wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. And then if you are just wanting to use this to charge, you can press this little button and now it turns it into just a charging location. There's also a 12-volt outlet there and a little storage cubby there. Okay, so driver's side of the Ioniq 5. So there's a couple of extra things on the seat that I'm going to get to in a moment. On the door, left side, so we got the button here for the child safety lock mechanism. That's not just for the windows, that's also for the doors, so that's pretty cool. Auto up and down on all 4 windows, of course your locks there, mirrors there. And then you've also got the ability to fold the mirrors in, but it will do that automatically when you lock the doors. Right underneath there is 2 buttons for seating and mirror position, so memory seat and mirrors. But believe it or not, this is not necessarily for 2 separate drivers, because in the infotainment system in the center console there, you can actually set up driver profiles, which does that. It will put the seats and the mirrors into the position that you would normally have. You can actually set up these buttons for 2 separate positions for each driver. So there's 2 drivers in the driver profile, and there's also a guest account, and you can actually set up the memory seats within the driver profiles that are completely unrelated to each other. So that's pretty cool. So one thing that, you know, what I do anyway is in the evening, because I want to be a bit more relaxed, I have a much more relaxed driving position. So I use that level 2 or driver 2 for that. And then in the mornings, much more upright, much more alert position. I put it on driver position 1. That's just me. So yeah, kind of cool that there are basically 4 different positions. Okay, other than that, on the seat, you'll notice this side has a few extra buttons because it's got a calf support. So if I press this button here, you'll notice the calf support is coming up. If I press this button right here, it's actually going to do something pretty cool. This is for the relaxation seating function. So actually got to hold this one down, I think, and then hold it down a second time because it wants to make sure there's nothing in the back before it actually does its thing. But look at this. This is the relaxation seating position if you're charging somewhere, waiting for a long train, etc., waiting for a ferry. You can see now it's kind of like a lazy boy, puts it into that nice comfortable position, and then you just hold the front of that button down and it goes back. Other than that, the buttons are the same as the passenger side. So essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-way position driver's seat with the relaxation seating capability as well. All right, so let's get into the driver's seat of the 2026 Ioniq 5. I'll turn the fans down here a little bit. There we go. Okay, so driving position, very, very comfortable. The center console armrest is the same height as the door armrest, which is very, very important. Believe it or not, not every car company does that. I don't know why, it's kind of silly, but this is specifically the same height, so you're not like sitting on an angle or whatever. First thing you notice when you jump into this vehicle, there's a lot of buttons, and quite frankly, that's really nice. These are buttons that you don't necessarily have to use because there's a lot of voice capability, and there is some, a lot of stuff on the screens and whatnot, but there's a lot of physical buttons as well. So Hyundai hasn't skimped out on the physical buttons. But now let's go over some of those things, starting at the left side. So we got our dimmer switch right here. This is your traction and stability control. This will open up the tailgate. This will open up the charging door. This is your auto hold button, which stops the vehicle from moving forwards when you take your foot off the brake, but of course it does that in iPedal as well, which I'll get to in a bit. We have our e-brake, so you can pull that to set the e-brake or push it to turn it off, but you need to put your foot on the brake to do that. This is also automatic, so it'll do that by itself. Above that is the left vent, but above that, I have to point this out because a lot of people ask what this is. It's not a speaker, it's literally just a place to stick magnets. That's it. There's a metal thing behind this sort of cover here, and it's just where you can like hang stuff. Kind of interesting. On the left stalk of the steering wheel, you can see we've got our headlights. They are automatic with automatic high beams as well, and a one-touch turn signal that you can just tap and it'll flash 3, 5, or 7 times. But check this out, when you turn on the turn signal, it shows you down the side of the vehicle an image, so you can actually see what's in your blind spot without even having to shoulder check. That is pretty awesome. On the right-hand stalk, of course, is your window wiper washer stalk. So you would pull this towards you to clean the front window, push it away from you to clean the rear window, but it also is automatic, as you can see. And every time you change what setting you're on, it shows you in here which setting you're actually changing and what you're leaving it on. That is awesome. So the automatic, there's 5 levels of aggressiveness for the automatic system. And if you just want to quickly mist, you can push the wiper down. But keeping it on auto is really all you need to do. In the middle of the steering wheel stalk, you have the eye tracking sensor right here. Now this can be enabled and disabled. There's some additional features that come along with this. Basically, it's all safety related. On the left side of the steering wheel, we have buttons here for cruise control on and initial speed setting. And then we have increase speed, decrease speed. This is also your pause and resume button. And then right beneath that is the distance that you're following the car in front of you, which will be represented on the screen by a little car with 4, 3, 2, 1 boxes in front of it, indicating your dynamic distance. These 2 buttons here, they control everything in this screen right here. So we'll go over that in a moment. But basically this one here will kind of cycle you to the right. This one will go up and down in your menus, and it's also an OK button. I'll show you everything that's in there. This one right here is your lane keep assist, lane departure, it is, but it isn't. It does those things, but you have to hold it. Normally it's your lane centering button. So if I just press it, it turns on the lane centering icon, which is that little steering wheel there. If I hold it, however, it'll turn on and off the lane keep assist, lane departure warning, which is the little one right beside it. It's going to hold it again. Boom, now that's back on. Now, when those are lit up in green, then they're actually doing something. Underneath that's our drive mode. So we have Eco, Normal, Sport, My Drive, and Snow. So Eco mode is just going to basically make it rear wheel drive only. It'll start off in full all wheel drive initially, and then it'll kind of go to rear wheel drive as you hit your speed. Normal is just going to be normal. Sport is going to give you all the power you can possibly want in this vehicle, all 320 horsepower. It's also going to keep you in all wheel drive pretty much all the time. My drive is a customizable drive mode, which is in the infotainment screen, so we'll leave that for now. And then snow mode is going to start you off with reduced power, but also, of course, keep you in all-wheel drive, and it's going to make your traction and stability control a little bit more aggressive. On the right-hand side of the steering wheel is the buttons that control the infotainment system. So your mode button is where music's coming from, which is actually customizable. So AM, FM, Sirius XM, Bluetooth, USB, phone projection, etc. This would be a next track, previous track, or next preset, previous preset. The star button here is fully customizable, so the first time you press it, the system asks you, okay, what do you want this button to do? You can actually choose what you want it to do. And a lot of people will choose hang up call because there's no hang up button. There's an answer button, which is also the hang up button, but if you want to hang up the call before answering it, you would need to set that to reject or end phone call, so now this would be a hang up button. You got your voice recognition right here, so if I press that, it's going to say, okay, what do you want to do? If I go to commands here,
here are some available commands.
Here are some available commands. So now it's basically showing us all the different things that we can say to do with the car. So look at this, open the window or open all windows. So let's try that. Let's hit the voice recognition. Open all windows.
Opening all windows.
And all the windows are open, and we got the noisy train passing us by. This is the third train already today. Okay, can we use it to close the windows? No. Close all windows.
Closing all windows.
Oh, they fixed it. Okay, you can do it now. All right, so you never used to be able to close the windows because they were worried about pinch protection, I guess. That's new. Okay, let's try something else then. Open the lift gate.
Opening the tailgate.
It's funny, if you say open the tailgate, it doesn't work. We say open lift gate, it works, but then it says opening the tailgate. Okay, now I'm pretty certain it's not gonna let me close the tailgate. Close the lift gate.
Feature is not supported.
No, I actually have to hold the liftgate button on the left of the dashboard because if I let it go, it will stop. And the reason for that is because they're worried about, you know, people getting caught underneath the liftgate. Now, it does have pinch protection as well, so I'm not sure why they couldn't just make it do that, but here we are. Okay, next. Okay, so that's pretty much everything on the right side of the steering wheel with the exception of the volume and mute button there, of course, as well. Underneath all of that stuff is the shift stalk. So to put it into drive, we would roll this forward and roll it backwards to put it into reverse, roll it halfway to put it into neutral, and then press the end to put the vehicle into park. So that's how that works, pretty straightforward. On the back of the steering wheel, there are paddles here. Now, those paddles are not for shifting gears. Those are to change the level of regeneration. As you can see right here on the bottom right, it's in level 1 right now. If I pull the right paddle, it goes to level 0. If I pull the left paddle, we have level 1, level... Come on. Nope, it won't let me do it unless I'm in gear. So let me put it into drive. Pull the left paddle. Oh, wait, no, it's probably because I'm still in snow mode. That's it. All right. Yeah, there we go. So now we're in I-pedal. And I-pedal, basically, the car will not move unless I press the accelerator. So right now we're not moving, not touching the brake or anything. Press the accelerator, there we go, I move, I let go of the accelerator, and it stops. So that's your one-pedal driving mode. Yeah, in snow mode, you cannot go above level 1 because they don't want you to losing control if you take your foot off the accelerator and there's snow on the road or whatever. So yeah, that's why it wouldn't let me shift to level 3 regeneration. Good point to raise and a good thing to remember. Okay, let's slide over and have a look at the center console here again. So we've got our wireless charging pad, which is also where you would stick your phone for the digital key capability. You got 2 cup holders, a little spot to stand a phone, which is, I would never put my phone between 2 drinks, but that's what that's there for. You have ventilated seats up front, 3 levels, which is kind of nice, and heated seats up front as well. So there's your ventilated seat for the passenger side, heated seat for the passenger side. 2 levels of steering wheel heat, so it doesn't have to be in scorching hot all the time. You can put it in warm or hot, and it's the whole steering wheel, not just the grips, not just the top or bottom or half the steering wheel, it's the whole steering wheel. By the way, you'll notice we've also got some lights here that are flickering. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see that they go red. If I change the drive mode, it does a little dance here, so there's normal, sport, My Drive, Snow, and then back to Eco. So various colors kind of runs through those little pixels. Now the 4 dots, by the way, indicate the letter H in Morse code. So H for Hyundai. Okay, going back to this, sorry. So yeah, that's where you put your phone for digital key. We got the buttons here. There's a button in the middle for your camera system. So if I press that, it'll bring up our camera system. Check this out. So we have our top-down view, and you notice it does have dynamic steering lines even when you're in drive. If I switch to reverse, you'll see they come up on the back there now. The dynamic steering lines are very, very smooth, great refresh rate, it looks fantastic, very easy to see, but it also shows you the swing of the front of the side of the vehicle as you're making a sharp turn. And if you're in reverse, it'll show you the swing of the front corners of the vehicle if you're making a turn. So that's awesome. It's a really, really, really good camera system. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is there's a couple other things you can do. You can go the front and left sides of the vehicle specifically. So if you're like parallel parking, you want to see the curb. So that's kind of cool. And you can go full camera front view, or top-down front view, or just kind of standard, and you can do all of that with the rear cameras as well. So there's your rear wheels, etc. But you've also got the full 360 view, which is kind of nice. So now you can actually see the vehicle in real time. Now keep in mind, this is only going to look like your car if you bought a white one, because it's always a white car. Under the gear icon here, you can see we've got some settings for the camera system as well. But otherwise, yeah, great resolution, good cameras, and very, very easy to use. But look, you can even move this around. I forgot to point that out. How cool is that? Now, one thing we're going to try with this button is the remote park assist, or the parking assist system, not the remote parking assist system. So I'm going to hold that down until it says on the screen, drive forward slowly, keeping closer to the side on which you want to park. Now, I'd love to show you the self-parking system. I simply cannot do that here because there's no actual parking lines anywhere. The car looks for parking lines in order to park within. It's just not going to work here. So we'll continue on. The button right next to the camera button is the parking sensor. So if we want, we can disable the parking sensors simply by pressing this button. Now, this vehicle also has reverse park assist, where it will hit the brakes if you're getting too close to an object. However, that can be disabled simply by holding this button down. So when you hold this button, I'm going to show you the screen here. Sorry, I know I'm moving the camera around a lot, but that's just to show you everything. If I hold this button down, it will say, boom, parking collision avoidance assistance off. If I hold it down again, it just turns it back on. So that's your parking distance warning system button to turn them on or off, or to enable and disable parking collision avoidance assistance. Okay. All right, next thing would be the climate control system. So we're going to have a look at that next. So on the climate control system, we do have some pretty reflective plastic here, but it's not reflective in a way that it's annoying to me as the driver. I can see this perfectly fine. And this is quite bright as well, I will point that out. I don't even have the brightness turned up all the way. There we go, now the brightness is up. So we have the ability to put it on driver only, so that shuts off the entire right side. It is automatic climate control, which is nice. We can shut the whole thing off. And the automatic climate control, by the way, is 3 levels. So you don't actually have to have the fans in high all the time. You can reduce it and make this whole climate control system just a little bit more quiet, but it also takes a little bit longer to get to the temperatures that you have it set. It is, of course, dual zone climate control. You have automatic recirculation. So there's a recirculation button there. If I pull the windshield washer fluid stock, it's going to automatically recirculate the air, so I don't have to smell that. And if I drive through a tunnel, it'll also turn on recirculation, so I don't have to smell the tunnel air. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty much it about the climate control, though. I'm not, nothing else to talk about there. It's pretty standard stuff. Right above that are all of those buttons I was talking about for the infotainment system. So we got your volume knob here. It's also a power button. So if I press that, it'll turn the music on. Of course, if I hold that down, it will shut off the whole screen. The home button will just basically always take you to the first of the 3 possible screens that you have here. Now, in some vehicles, it'll go to the middle screen. So a lot of people are like, oh, what do I do? Because I'd rather have this screen. Well, here's the cool thing. You can just make that screen. You can move this stuff over, go right to the edge. It'll go to the next screen over. And there we go. So if when you press the home button, it goes to the middle of these 3, I don't know why some of our vehicles do that and some of the vehicles don't. But yeah, you can just customize what's on these screens anyways. It really doesn't matter that much. Okay, so going back to the home screen here, we have the map button, which of course takes us into the map screen, which we'll talk about in a bit. The search button here, which is a fully global search. It allows you to search within the navigation system. You can search within setup terms, media, even contacts on your cell phone. So all of that will come up when you do searches for things here. So you can see it's going to look for navigation results, setup results, media results, and if you have a phone connected, phone results as well. We have our seek and track button, which are obvious. Media will allow you to choose, well, first it goes back to the media that you were listening to. If I press it a second time, now it'll show us the different options for media sources. And of course we have AM and FM, Sirius XM, Bluetooth, USB, Sounds of Nature, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. The setup button will simply take you into the setup screen. This right here is a tuning knob, which is nice. And then there's also this little guy right here, which is a reset button if the system screws up and you need to reset the infotainment system. Now, I have a video where I detailed absolutely everything about the infotainment system. I'm going to refer you to that, with the exception of one thing in this infotainment system. So if you want to see everything there is to know about the infotainment system, please go to the video that I have linked in the description below. I promise you it would be super helpful if you're buying a Hyundai, because it talks about the entire CCNC system, that is this software. However, the only thing that's missing from that video is this EV screen. So let's go to this EV screen and see what you can do within here. Okay. So this is basically going to be the same on a Ioniq 6 or a Kona EV, or the Ioniq 9 as a matter of fact as well. So there's a lot of things in here that are translatable to other EVs within the Hyundai family. But basically this is not going to be shown in that other video that I'm linking below. So that's why I wanted to go over this here. Okay, so on the first screen, we have a quick rundown, kind of an overview of the range. We've got 98%. It's going to go about 495 kilometers, 507 kilometers with the climate control turned off. And if I change the drive mode, let's see here, if I put it into Eco, it was Eco, so there's normal mode. You notice it changed to 480. And then sport mode down to 465, my drive, and snow mode. So depending on the mode that you're in, it will recalculate your overall range, which is awesome. And Hyundai does a really, really good job with their range estimates. You'll also notice here that it's showing the closest charging station and where it is. That's pretty cool. If I hit this little icon on the bottom left here, it's going to show us kind of an overall view of the map. It gives us kind of a as the crow flies. Not sure why it changes when I zoom out, but looks like I can go about, yeah, right about there. So it shows us as the crow flies how far we can go. Now, of course, this is not an exact science, but kind of neat that it actually has that capability. So we'll back out of there. We're going to go back to the EV screen here. Now, what you're noticing here is that anything that I touch will actually bring up the corresponding thing. So there's our charging station. If I touch the car here, it goes to the charging limits, which is kind of cool, which we're going to get to in a moment. But if I swipe over to the left, now we have more stuff to look at. So we have our battery status. If I tap that, again, it brings us to this screen here. If I tap this, it'll take us back to the navigation system, but I also have the utility mode button here. So this is really cool. I can activate utility mode, which is kind of like dog mode. This will allow you to continue running all the car's electronics while you're not driving. So it's like a camping mode or whatnot. Okay, so that's what that is. Right here is our scheduled charging capability. So we can schedule the charge when we want it to charge, what limit we want, or how fast we want the AC charging to go, 60%, 90%, 100%. So that's just for AC charging. Okay, so this is a reduction in charge levels, so you don't like blow breakers or whatever. So it says here, if charger stops unexpectedly, lower charge setting, continue charging. So that's what that is. Electricity use, this is a fun one. So this is showing how much energy is going to individual aspects of the vehicle in real time, but also since you started the vehicle. So since I started the vehicle, only 4% has gone to the drivetrain, 49% has gone to electronics, etc. That's because I haven't driven anywhere really. And you'll notice right now 0 kilowatts going to the drivetrain, half a kilowatt going to electronics, 0.36 kilowatts going to climate control, and 0 going to battery care. So if anybody ever says to you, hey, what if you get stuck in traffic? Well, you can show them very, very little energy. These are, this is the amount of energy that the electronics and the climate control are currently using just sitting here, not even 1 kilowatt. Now, the battery in this thing is 84 kilowatt hours, which means you could run 1 kilowatt of draw for 84 hours before you ran out of power. So yeah, there's never a problem getting stuck in traffic. It's not a big deal. All right, AV range history. So this just shows you, what sort of range you had and how fast you were going, distance to empty. Yeah, nobody's going to use that screen. Charge efficiency history. Well, I shouldn't say nobody's going to use that, but very few people will actually use that screen. Charge efficiency history. So what sort of charging speeds you were getting when you were plugged in charging on given days. So it's just history of charging. Now, if I go to this screen, so that we started basically here, right? We swiped over, went to there. We opened this up, which brought up this icon. So you'll notice that these icons do actually correspond to some of the things that you can tap on within these screens as well. So for instance, if I hit this button here, this is now our scheduled climate. I could have gotten there from the first screen as well. So this is essentially when the car is going to be used. So if you wanted to set this, let's say you left for work every morning at 7 o'clock, Monday through Friday, you could set it up so that the climate control comes on and puts the climate at 22 degrees Celsius or whatever, the defrost on those days at those times. Now this only works if the car is plugged in, so that's really cool. You can kind of set it to preemptively cool down or warm up the interior depending on what days and times you leave for work. So pretty awesome. Then there's our AC charging settings. Again, our charging limit is here as well. So if we don't want the vehicle to charge to 100%, everyone recommends 80%. I recommend 90 because 90% isn't really 100%. Or sorry, 90% isn't really 90%. It's more like 84%, I believe it is. So that's just to prolong your battery life. And you can also do that for AC charging as well. For DC charging, I wouldn't change this because the amount of times you actually DC charge probably be much less than how often you AC charge. And then right here we have electricity use using a vehicle to load. This is awesome. So this vehicle, I forgot to point out, has the ability to run vehicle to load. That means that there's actually a power outlet in the back, which I totally forgot to point out, like a 120 volt power outlet. And you can also plug a adapter into the charging port to provide 120 volts of 1800 watt capable power. And as the battery is being used up, at some point it's going to stop. So if you want it to stop at 20%, you put it there. If you want it to stop at 50%, you put it there. Pretty easy. Okay, and then the last screen is the electric vehicle settings. So we have battery conditioning, which is awesome. So battery conditioning is automatic if you plot a course to a charging station using the built-in navigation system. You can also activate that here. That'll pre-warm your battery so that it charges nice and quick at a DC fast charging station. There's our utility mode again. Smart regeneration. So if you're just not sure how to use the regeneration paddles and you just want the car to figure it out, you can put this on smart regeneration so it controls the regen paddles for you, or regen levels for you automatically. Personally, I don't like this. I just drive an iPedal everywhere, which is much the nicer way to drive in my opinion. And then we also have the charging started alerts. So when you plug the car in, it'll basically say charging started, and you can change the volume level of that. So that's everything within the EV screen. That's again the only thing that's different about this particular screen versus what's in the other video. So again, check out the video in the description below if you want to learn more about this system. Okay, looking at the rear view mirror, we have 3 home link buttons. So those are for garage doors and gates. Above that, of course, we have our upper console here. So we have basically there's lights on either side, little map lights. We have our SOS button to call emergency services, and it does also do automatic emergency services in the event of a collision. A roadside assistance button there. We have our sort of mood lighting looking thing here. There we got this one, which turns on all the lights in the car, both front and rear. And then we have all the lights in the car on when the door is open, and of course control for the sunroof. By the way, you can stop the shade anywhere along the way. Both of the sun visors do slide, and they both have mirrors, and they both have lights. All right, let's quickly talk about the instrument cluster and the head-up display. First, we'll talk about the head-up display. So as you can see there, we have our turn-by-turn directions at the top. I've currently got a navigation destination set up. On the left is a street sign, so that'll show you how fast you're allowed to go, and of course the bottom is how fast you are going. You've also got the turn-by-turn direction, the lane keep assistance, the lane centering icon there in the middle. And then of course, if you're drifting over the lines, the outside of the lines will start to flash. You can also see cars in front of you on there, adaptive cruise control information, etc. So there's a bunch of stuff that comes up on that head-up display, and it's really, really easy to see. The instrument cluster here is pretty cool. You'll notice on the left side we have our speedometer, on the right side is our range till empty. We have the eco mode on the bottom left. The current status of the vehicle, so it says ready, that means it's ready to drive. Outside temperature right next to that. The gear that we're in right next to that. We have battery percentage at 98%. The current drive regen setting that we're in. Have the overall odometer of the vehicle. And this is kind of nice with the range. You can see we got max 620 kilometers, minimum 365, expected 492. And we can also change what the instrument cluster looks like. So we've got several different options. We have simple, modern, and classic, and then we have 3 color styles for the different versions as well. So lots to see in there, pretty customizable. Nice. Okay, now I wanted to quickly talk about the center of the instrument cluster here and what you can put on that screen. So to control all of that is these 2 buttons right here. The upper button will allow you to cycle between the 3 sort of main menus. So we're going to start on the left one there. You'll notice those 3 little lines at the bottom. And then the little scroll wheel allows us to go down, up and down within those menus. So first item here is current trip. If I hold that scroll wheel down, it allows me to reset the resettable. This particular one will reset automatically if I turn the car off and turn it back on. So we're going to roll down to the next one. Here is after charging. So if I hold OK now, it's going to reset. There we go. So a trip computer, basically you have your kilometers, distance traveled, time that the vehicle's been running, and average kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and then instant kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers right below that. Scroll down again is since we last reset it. So this one basically will reset whenever you reset it. The other 2 will reset automatically. After charging, obviously, whenever you charge, and the other one whenever you turn the car on and off. But this one will stay until you reset it by holding the OK button, just like that. Right below that is our range guide. So it shows us, okay, our minimum, maximum range. But of course, that's on the right side anyway. Scrolling down again, we have our tire pressure monitor, which will only display pressures once you start driving. And one more time down is the power distribution level, so where power is going to, which wheel is getting power. And if I scroll down again, it goes back to the current trip. So now I'm going to hit that top button again to bump over once. And currently it's showing our turn-by-turn directions. However, if I cancel the route, cancel route,
Route canceled.
it's going to switch to just a compass, okay? And there's nothing else in this menu, so if I move the scroll wheel up and down, it doesn't do anything. But if I press that top button one more time, it takes us over to this screen, which is kind of an overview of what's going on around the vehicle. So if there was a vehicle in front of us, it would show us on here. It also shows us our street lines, which will blink if you start to drift over the lines. It also shows the adaptive cruise level as well for using adaptive cruise control. Okay, I think that's absolutely everything on the 2026 Ioniq 5 Ultimate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took a long time to put this together because there's so much to talk about in this car. If this video was helpful to you, please hit the subscribe button. It's a simple thing for you to do. It's never going to bother you otherwise. The only thing that it'll do for you is just you might see one of your YouTube suggestions being one of my videos. That's all it is. So if you could please do that, I would be very much appreciated. But anyway, thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any questions, leave comments below. And until next time, take care.